All right, Proverbs 2 and verse 10. Proverbs 2 and verse 10. It says, "When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul." So now we're starting off on another angle here. The first 9 verses of Proverbs 2, Solomon gave us the condition for acquiring understanding, knowledge, and the wisdom of God. The rest of the chapter, then, Solomon gives some practical benefits of possessing wisdom, most notably its temporal, saving, and preserving qualities. And that's what he's going to tell us about in the rest of the chapter, is some specific things that the wisdom of God can save us from. Two main things: bad men and bad women, but we'll get to there in a minute. So there are many benefits to getting wisdom, but a Christian's primary motivation for doing so shouldn't be just the temporal advantages that we can get from wisdom, but it should be the intrinsic virtue of wisdom itself. Right? So it's great that he gives us these examples of things that we can avoid by wisdom, and that's a good reason to get it, but we should want to get it even if it didn't afford some temporal blessing to us, right? Just for the sheer fact of knowing it itself, because it is that intrinsically valuable. And this is kind of another theme here in Proverbs. If you look at Proverbs 4, 5 through 9, I'll just read that whole passage there and show you, point out a couple things to you. Proverbs 4, 5 through 9. I want to show you here that God extols wisdom first, and he tells you to get wisdom before he tells you that it's going to preserve you or it's going to keep you. And he tells you that to get it before he tells you that it's going to promote you and bring you to honor and be an ornament of grace, right? So he tells you to get it first, and then he tells you that all these great things that will come about of getting it. But he doesn't tell you the good things first, right? This isn't the prosperity gospel. He tells you to get it, and then other things will follow. Proverbs 4 and verse 5. "Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee." See, there's a benefit. But first of all, the most important thing is just to get it. "Love her, and she shall keep thee." Wisdom is the principal thing. That means it's the first and highest in rank and importance. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. Why do you get wisdom? Because it's the most important thing, right? It's not because of what you can get out of it. It's just because it is the best thing itself. Get the wisdom. "With all thy getting, get understanding." And then here's the benefit. "Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor when thou dost embrace her. She shall give to thine head an ornament of grace, a crown of glory shall she deliver to thee." Wisdom is its own reward. It's said of virtue, same thing. Virtue is its own reward. It's good enough just to have it, even if it doesn't bring you any other kind of benefit. So then it says there in Proverbs 2:10, "When wisdom entereth into thine heart." Let's look at that phrase. So this statement indirectly tells us something. It reveals to us that the natural state of man's heart is one that is devoid of wisdom, right? Because when it says, "When wisdom entereth into thine heart," that kind of tells us that it's not already there innately, right? It's got to be brought in. By default, our condition is one of ignorance and stupidity, right? Not wisdom and knowledge. So if wisdom is promised to enter into our hearts, then it means that it doesn't currently reside there. And we know from Proverbs 22:15, it says that not wisdom, but foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, and the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. So that rod has to beat the foolishness out to make room for the wisdom. The heart's only so big. It only has so much room in there, and there's so much foolishness in there that there's no room for wisdom until the foolishness gets driven out, and it makes some room for wisdom. And that's parents' job, to drive that foolishness out and impart wisdom. By nature, we're told in Jeremiah 17:9 that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? We're told. And Proverbs 10:2 says the heart of the wicked is little worth. And in Mark 7:21 through 23, Jesus taught us that it's pretty well full of evil. Let's look at some of those. Let's look at this description in Mark 7:21 through 23. Mark 7:21 through 23. So I'm going somewhere with this. We're going to see that there's a problem with the way our heart is by nature, and if we're going to get wisdom, something has to happen first. Mark 7:21 through 23, Jesus said, "For from within, out of the heart of man, proceedeth evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man." So that's what's in man's heart by nature, right? You've ever heard somebody say to follow your heart, right? Yeah, follow your heart. Be a murderer, an adulterer, a fornicator, a covetous person, a wicked person, a lascivious person, a blasphemer. Follow your heart. I wouldn't recommend that. God first has to change that heart, give you the new heart. Remember what he said in Ezekiel 36:26? God's got to do something to the heart first. Ezekiel 36:26 through 28. He says, "A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and will give you an heart of flesh, and I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes. And ye shall keep my judgments, and do them. And ye shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and ye shall be my people, and I will be your God." This is a picture of regeneration, because he's talking to Israel here, and he's going to give them a new heart and bring them into the land and so on. But we can clearly see underlying this is the description of regeneration, when God takes that stony heart out and gives the new heart. And it really fits in there well, because remember what we just got done reading about in Proverbs chapter 2? He says there in verse 27, "I will cause you to walk in my statutes." That's the righteousness, remember, in Proverbs 2 that we were looking at? "And you shall keep my judgments." Remember, righteousness and judgment and equity? So God gives the new heart so that we can walk in righteousness and judgment. Takes that evil heart out and gives us a heart that is capable of receiving the wisdom of God.
You mentioned something about the world saying,
Follow your heart.
Follow your heart. And God said, "Hear thou my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way."
That's right.
So you don't follow it, but you guide.
Right. Yeah, you don't let it guide you, you guide it. And the heart basically meaning your emotions, right? You don't let your emotions make your decisions. And that is true. And I learned this in reading a sales book that I'm reading right now. And the guy said that most people, if not all people, definitely most, make buying decisions based on emotion, and then they justify it using logic or using rational thought. But they don't make the decision based on rational thought. When somebody buys that new car that they love, "I like that thing, I want it." And they're like, "Whoa, it's good on gas mileage, and whoa, it's going to last a long time, and boy, it's got a really good rating, and blah blah blah." Like they come up with all these reasons to buy it, all these rational reasons to buy it, but the real reason they bought it is because they just wanted it. It's the emotion gets them, and then they back it up with reason. It's not the other way around. Most people don't make decisions with reason and then emotionally fall in love with it. They emotionally fall in love with it and then back it up with reason. And that's absolutely true. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When I was reading that, I thought, boy, that is the way it is. That's why it's always a good idea not to buy something the first time you see it. The first time you see it and you want it, don't buy it. Go home, think about it, research it, and you probably would buy a lot less stuff that way, or a lot different things that way. But of course, salespeople don't want you to do that. Right? Salespeople want to buy it. They want you to buy it now. Okay, knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul. So knowledge is not appealing to those who don't have a heart prepared to receive it. Right? It's not pleasant to them. Right? And I see this every day in most people. I don't see knowledge being pleasant to the soul of most people out there, right? You share the knowledge of the truth with them, and it's not appealing to them. It's not pleasant to them. They don't want to hear it, right? But somebody that has received God's word with meekness and wants to know the truth, then when they get knowledge, even maybe when it's knowledge that tells me things about myself that I don't like to hear, right? I mean, because the Bible tells you a lot about yourself, or maybe you get the knowledge of a rebuke from a brother or a sister, that cares enough about you to tell you that. That knowledge is pleasant unto your soul, even if it doesn't feel the greatest at the moment. Rather than embracing knowledge, though, we're told in Proverbs 1:22 that fools hate knowledge and they despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. That's the difference between the righteous and the ungodly. One, knowledge is pleasant. The other one, it's an irritation. But when the heart has been prepared by God through regeneration to receive His Word, instead of being irritating, knowledge becomes pleasant. Pleasant means having the quality of giving pleasure, originally synonymous with pleasing, but now used more vaguely, agreeable to the mind, feelings, or senses, such as one likes. So the knowledge of God is agreeable to the senses because you have changed your mind to be thinking the way that God thinks, and now all of a sudden His wisdom, it feels good to you. You like the way. When you read the Bible, it's a comfort to you instead of an irritation or a frightful thing to you, or a boring thing to you, like it is to a lot of people. So to the child of God with a renewed heart, the knowledge of God gives pleasure unto his soul, which is the very essence of his being, right? It says knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, right? So the Bible is food for the soul. Jesus said that man cannot live by bread alone, but by every word of God doth man live, right? So it's food, like I said, for the soul. Now, it can be pleasing to the inward man, but at times it's still not pleasing to the flesh. If you look in Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 18, the same words can feed your soul and irritate your flesh, cause grief for your flesh. And that's what happens. The more you learn, the more sorrow you have in your life. Ecclesiastes 1 and verse 18, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. So it is still pleasing to your soul, but it can cause you a lot of heartache in your life. So though the truth may be hard to receive and often will cost a man dearly, it will free his spirit from the bondage of lies which enslave him. And I'll give you this last verse as we close tonight in John 8:31 through 32. Even when it's hard to receive, it will free us. It'll free us from lies and deception. John 8:31 through 32. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, if ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. It'll be pleasant to your soul, and it'll give you the freedom from all the lies